communication with Banks for a long period of time, right?
He couldn't even tell you, like, at any point when you speak to him what a problem is. I put him, like, where I put Marquise.
You and Banks are not hanging out at the strip.
Take some responsibility for Lloyd Banks for toting Ayo.
What responsibility? Like a parent?
You're the leader.
What responsibility am I taking for him? Like, explain to me.
That you didn't encourage them to be independent.
Lloyd Banks is finally speaking up about what really happened between him and 50 Cent, and he's not holding back. After years of staying quiet, Banks is calling out the disrespect, the fake narratives, and how 50 twisted their story like it was some kind of game. When G-Unit hit the scene, they were a powerhouse. 50 Cent might have been the front man, but Banks brought serious heat. His voice, his delivery, his bars' unmatched energy. They were supposed to be like brothers. At least that's how it looked. But once the fame started rolling in, things took a different turn. 50 began throwing shade in interviews, calling Banks lazy and saying he didn't want success badly enough. He even took jabs at him in his book, making it sound like Banks gave up and let himself fall off. But back then, Banks didn't fire back. No online rants, no drama. Just silence for years. Now, in a new interview, Banks is finally setting the record straight, and he's clearly done letting 50 control the narrative. He says 50 was nowhere to done letting 50 control the narrative. He says 50 was nowhere to be found during the hardest moments of his life. And that label of being lazy, total lie. According to Banks, he says he never stopped grinding, he just wasn't doing it on 50's terms. That disconnect is what caused the drift. Not a lack of hustle, but you already know 50 Cent doesn't back down from a public call-out. As soon as Banks spoke up, 50 clapped back almost immediately, throwing fresh shade and making new digs. Now fans are divided. Some believe the 50's always kept it real, while others feel Banks finally deserves credit for staying true to himself. The tension is real, and the loyalty that once existed is starting to look like a thing of the past. So what really went down between them? Was it just creative differences, or did things get personal behind the scenes? G-Unit gave fans some of the most iconic moments in early 2000s hip-hop. But behind all that music was clearly a lot of silence, misunderstandings, and bottled-up resentment. Banks is making it clear that the story isn't as simple as 50 made it seem for all these years. Now fans are watching closely to see where this goes. Will there be more back and forth? Or could this finally be the breaking point that shuts the door for good? The damage might already be done, and both sides are standing firm in their truths. What once looked like unshakable brotherhood has now turned into a public battle of egos, memories, and conflicting versions of history.
This is something.
Let's break it all down. For years, Lloyd Banks stayed silent about all the tension with 50 Cent. But after 50 took another random jab at him, Banks had enough and finally decided to respond. During a recent tour stop, 50 name-dropped both Lloyd and Young Buck in some behind-the-scenes Instagram footage. It sounded like he was clowning Banks for not being as successful, and that shade didn't go unnoticed. That moment highlighted a big difference between the two. Banks doesn't play the social media game. He doesn't post subliminals or stir things up with slick talk in interviews. But when he sat down for a rare, open interview, he let it all out. He talked about the false narratives, the so-called laziness, and how the 50s have been repeating the same tired storyline for years. You could tell this wasn't about music beef anymore. This went beyond rap drama, it was personal. Banks explained it clearly. He wasn't unmotivated or lazy. He was grieving. Around the same time 50 was publicly calling him out, Banks had just lost his father. He was dealing with real pain and heartbreak. And instead of getting understanding or support from someone he considered a brother, he got mocked and judged in front of the world.
Dude on his arm. He literally wears his laziness on his sleeve. He's always projected an unhelpful mixture of being both introverted and
got blasted publicly, and not just once. Interviews, books, memes. 50 turned it into a full-blown campaign. Sure, 50 admitted Banks could rap, even called him a solid lyricist. But then he hit him with a backhanded comment, saying he didn't have the charisma or hustle to become a real star. According to Banks, though, all that talk doesn't hit as hard as the silence did. When life got heavy, 50 wasn't there. Not during the darkest times, not when it really mattered. And that, Banks says, hurt more than any diss track ever could. He made it clear this wasn't just about music, it was about trust and loyalty. Banks also shut down that he fell off narrative completely. Since 2021, he's dropped 3 full albums back to back, the course of the Inevitable series, all independent. No label push, no radio hits, no big budget promo, just raw bars and a steady grind. Banks never stopped making music. He just stopped playing the industry's game. That's what this has really been about the whole time. Respect, not clout.
Make some new fans. Nah, that's corny, he told me.
50 Banks was never the kind of artist 50 wanted him to be. He wasn't flashy, didn't care about always being in the spotlight, and definitely wasn't chasing viral moments. He's a rapper's rapper, strictly focused on the bars, not the buzz. And that's exactly why 50 started distancing himself. In the 50s world, if you're not adding to the empire, you're seen as dead weight. Banks wasn't trying to be a soldier anymore. He had his own path. Now, just to break down how this all even began, 50 Banks and Tony Yayo weren't just music partners. They came up together in South Jamaica, Queens. This wasn't a label-manufactured bond, it was real neighborhood roots. They were just kids trying to survive, using rap as a ticket out. And when 50 blew up off Get Rich or Die Tryin', he didn't leave his boys behind. He brought them into the spotlight with him. G-Unit became more than just a group. It turned into a movement, a brand, a full lifestyle. And when it came to pure lyricism, Banks was untouchable. 50 had the charisma and the hooks, but Banks had that cold delivery and sharp wordplay. Fans noticed that quick. His mixtape game was unmatched. Money in the Bank, Cold Corner, all straight heat.
Good lyricist. Among what are known as the punchline rappers, rappers who will end their bars with a funny or tongue-in-cheek line, Banks liked to call himself the PLK, or Punchline King. I don't know if he's the king, but I'll give it to him that he's in the conversation. He is not, however, a great live performer, stylish dresser, or a domineering personality. So if he doesn't check those 3 boxes, how is he going to get bigger and become the star in real life?
Back in 2004, Banks dropped The Hunger for More, and it exploded. That album went platinum in less than a month. Tracks like On Fire, Karma, and I'm So Fly became instant classics. At that time, G-Unit really felt unstoppable. 50 was dominating the charts, Banks was proving himself as a serious MC, and Yayo had his own buzz going. Then, Young Buck in the game came in and brought even more fire. They had the streets and the industry in a chokehold. It wasn't just about music anymore. They had clothing lines, Reebok sneaker deals, and even their own video game. The chemistry in the crew seemed untouchable back then. And Banks? He wasn't some sidekick, he was a big part of what made G-Unit work. His voice, delivery, and calm intensity were part of the group's identity. Even 50 used to say Banks was one of the rawest rappers in the team. But when the fame and pressure started stacking up, things shifted fast. The cracks in the crew started to show. Young Buck was the first one to get pushed out.
For a long period of time, right?
He couldn't even tell you, like, at any point when you speak to him what the problem is. I put him, like, where I put Marquise.
You and Banks are not hanging out at a strip club,
No, he goes though.
but you don't go.
No, I don't see me there. We went to Atlantic City. We was in it was a showcase. They expect a show to happen
Performance.
tonight. Yeah, yeah, we will see you at the show tonight. And I go, oh, they expecting a show. Like, I was like, yo, call all of them, tell them to come here. When I asked Banks, like, when you...
The game went rogue. And just like that, the G-Unit machine started losing momentum. While all that chaos played out, Banks slowly began to fall back. He was never the loudmouth type, but now he was barely around at all. The split wasn't dramatic, no big blow-up, but the distance between him and 50 became obvious. After that first G-Unit wave, the whole vibe shifted. The unity faded, and it started to feel like solo artists just sharing a logo. Even 50 admitted that too much had gone down for there to ever be a real G-Unit reunion. That door was officially closed. Meanwhile, Banks kept drifting further from the spotlight. No press runs, no interviews, not even showing up at 50's events. To most fans, it looked like Banks had completely checked out of the game. But behind the scenes, it was a lot deeper than that. While Banks stayed quiet, 50 kept doing interviews and tossing out light jabs. He kept recycling that old lazy label and acting like he did everything to help Banks win. According to 50, Banks just didn't want it bad enough. He said Banks didn't grow, didn't adapt, and never really understood the music business.
Pac were both popping. So that makes sense that they still resonate with him so deeply. I can relate. I still love the music from when I was that age too. The difference is I haven't patterned my career after KRS-One and Coogee Rap. What would be the point of that? They were both incredible in their moment. But I've always been concerned about creating my own moment rather than copying theirs.
"50 straight up said Banks had the skills but no hustle. He even came at him for not being on social media, like that was some kind of deal breaker. But that's just not who Banks is. He moves in silence, focuses on his craft behind closed doors, and skips all the fake industry games. No cloud chasing, no drama, just music. And for a lot of fans, that made him real. But to 50, that made him a risk. Then 50 dropped Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, and that's when he really turned up the heat. He called out both Banks and Yayo, saying they were stuck in the past and refusing to grow. He singled Banks out by name, saying he got too comfortable, didn't want to evolve, and stayed in his own zone. 50 basically painted him as a wasted opportunity, someone with all the talent in the world but who let it go to waste. That book was the first clear sign 50 was cutting ties with Banks, and while Banks never fired back in interviews, fans believe he responded through music, specifically in his track Stranger Things. That song had bars that felt deeply personal, like they were aimed right at 50. This is where the two see things totally differently. For Banks, he's not lost or bitter, he's exactly where he wants to be.
You came to that room, we talked about, I think I irritated him earlier, playing with the Entourage. Yeah. But MO and them, like, cause I look.
Him being mega famous doesn't equal success. Success means doing what you love and taking care of your family, period. And let's not forget, Banks already owned that whole lazy label. He even tattooed Lazy Lloyd on himself. In interviews, Banks admitted it. When 50 called him out, he didn't deny it. He just said, "Is that true?" Like someone aware of his chill nature. Yeah, he's laid back, but that's not the same as lazy. Banks just doesn't want all the extra noise that comes with being a full-time celebrity. He's here to make music, not play the industry circus. But 50, he saw that as a lack of hunger. And here's where it really gets deep. To 50, loyalty is everything. If someone steps even a little out of line, they get cut off. No warning. In his own words, 50 said he'd rather be held at gunpoint than betrayed. That's how serious it is to him. He sees himself as someone who rides hard for his people, even willing to risk his life for them. So when someone close doesn't match that same energy, 50 takes it as a personal violation. And to him, that's worse than death. That's a line you don't come back from. This isn't just about Banks. It's how 50 moves. Look at his own son, Marquise. 50 cut him off completely over loyalty issues. Yeah, his own son. So if 50 is willing to turn his back on blood, you already know his friends never stood a real chance. Just look at Tony Yayo, one of the original G-Unit soldiers. Yayo was by his side for years, always loyal, always present. But even he couldn't avoid the fallout. The minute rumors started swirling about disloyalty, 50 went public with it. No hesitation, no private talks. Then there's young Buck. Buck was key in G-Unit's early 2000s run, especially with his southern energy. But as soon as 50 felt something off, he booted Buck out in the most dramatic, public way possible. No warnings, no soft landing, just done. Same with Games. He was once G-Unit's hottest new name, but after they clashed, Game got iced out. Hard. Their beef went down in hip-hop history.so when 50 saw that reunion photo of Lloyd Banks and Game floating around online. It hit differently. That was the final nail in the coffin. And of course, 50 didn't stay quiet. In a now-deleted post, he wrote, "What do you see when you look at this picture? I see confusion. I'm not sure if it's just me. I'm a Cancerish. Don't get old. With me, I never asked for trouble, but I really don't have a problem with it." Then he added, The question isn't how I feel about it, but how does Lomac feel about it? Some ish is just better off left alone. That post said everything. Without saying it directly, it was 50's way of showing he felt betrayed without getting into a whole back and forth. But to those who know the history, the message was loud and clear. That picture, that moment, it crossed the line. And now, here we are. Lloyd Banks finally speaks out after years of staying quiet, and 50 still standing by his version of the story. Two former brothers now living in two completely different worlds. One chasing legacy through business and media. The other is chasing peace and purpose through music. Maybe a G-Unit reunion was never in the cards, but fans will always remember what they built and wonder what it could have been if things had gone differently. We stay locked in over here, and I'll catch you next time, my stars or hushers, whichever one you rock with. Until then, stay sharp and stay tuned.